When I got into this business, it was all about skills. You wanted that person with the skills. You have to have the skills to come in. I've changed over the years because I'd taken the philosophy, I can teach someone how to turn a wrench. I can send them to school to become the best HVAC mechanic, but there's certain things I can't teach, and that's the people skills of it. So I want the guy that has good customer service skills, who can talk and feels comfortable talking with customers and setting expectations, but also being fair and being able to communicate well. So to me, I look at that first. If you have someone that can deliver great customer service skills, and I'm not for sure that's a taught talent.
Right.
I think some people have it and some people just don't.
Yeah.
You can teach them everything else, and I don't think you can do it the other way around.
There's a major crisis facing healthcare facilities management. We have aging employees, aging buildings, and aging infrastructure. We've created the Healthcare Facilities Network, a content network designed specifically to help solve for these three pressing issues in healthcare facilities management. We bring on thought leaders and experts from across healthcare facilities management, all the way from the C-suite to the technician level, because at the end of the day, we're all invested in solving the aging issue. Thanks for tuning in. Look at our videos. You will find that as a theme across our content. This is the Healthcare Facilities Network. I'm your host, Peter Martin. So hello and welcome to the Healthcare Facilities Network, live here from the Florida Healthcare Engineers Association down in Orlando, Florida, and happy to be joined today by Mike Neely. Mike is the System Director for Baycare Health.
Correct.
Down in the Orlando area. Mike, how many hospitals do you have oversight for?
Currently, we have 15, with the 16th just being built right now.
Wow. So it's a busy time.
Busy year.
Busy year, busy time. So Mike was kind enough to join me. Mike and I spoke last year at the FIA conference, and we were talking about workforce issues. And I said to Mike, I'd love to have you on. And coming back this year, I said, Mike, let's talk workforce. So I'm happy that Mike has joined me today. Mike, just for the listeners, from the big picture perspective, 15 hospitals building the 16th, how would you describe your workforce situation within FM?
We're really struggling right now in the Tampa market. It's a very competitive market. We're competing with the construction industry. We're competing with the commercial industry. We're seeing less techs in the field. After the last hurricane, we lost a lot of our techs just because the area has become so hard to live in with the rise of cost. So we're seeing a lot of our techs choose to move more north to states where maybe car insurance is cheaper, housing is cheaper, insurance for housing is cheaper. So we've struggled on all fronts. We're losing them to competitors, and then we're losing them just for the economic reasons as well.
It's a really interesting answer, Mike. I never really thought of, because I'm from the Boston area, from the north. We have a high cost of living. Everybody knows that. And but you guys are losing it to so Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina?
Yeah, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee.
Wow. And, I should have asked you this, and you mentioned it. So you guys are located in the Tampa area, and so you're on the more on the west coast of Florida.
Correct. Correct. Central part of the city, west coast.
Okay. So when you try to keep your folks, when they tell you you're leaving, are you able to you get in the same ballpark, or is it non-competitive at this point?
Yeah, it's really not competitive. Our wage scales are not competitive with construction industry or the commercial. We do rebound though. We do get some of them back because some of the guys leave for the commercial industries. Take HVAC, for example. They're in a truck all day long, 8 hours driving. And they have a route they have to do. So some of them are leaving at 5 a.m., not getting home to 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, and then starting all over. So after a couple months of that, we get some of them back saying, you know what, working in a hospital where it's Monday through Friday,
yep,
and I know my schedule, I know when I may be there, yeah, once in a while I get called in. It's very appealing, especially to those with younger kids. So we lose them, and then some come back. But most of the time we can't, if someone really wants to leave, we can't compete.
Yeah. How do you guys try to counter the workforce loss?
So, you look at your stacking ratios. So we've always tried to do the majority of work in-house.
Okay.
I'd say probably 80-20, 80% in-house, 20%. Now it's just we're changing those ratios around. Now maybe it's 30% contractor, 70% in-house. And then we try to go out there and look at new ways of getting people into our industry, getting them in the door, which is also a struggle, but got to come up with some different creative ways of doing that.
So when you do that, Mike, do you work with human resources to try to help you in those lines?
We do a little bit. Our struggle with human resources is that they don't know how to recruit the non-professionals or the non-clinical people. And so their mind of recruiting is throwing it up on the Baycare website and saying, well, we posted the job, but we're just not getting a lot of people interested in it. So we've actually gone with our HR people and tried to get them to come and shadow our staff a little bit or learn what our staff do. So when they're talking with them, they know what we're looking for and they can say, oh yeah, I saw that when I was out there, and they can put it together. That's helped us to get a little bit more people from them, and also pushing them to go back to some of the old and true tried methods of posting a job, the monsters and the entry level places, because that's where the trade people go and look.
Yeah.
They're not going to just jump on a hospital's website and look for a electrician's job or a plumber's job.
Right. And so you've had some success in bringing HR out into the field with your guys so they can see.
Yeah, we've had really good success. Our biggest issue now is that, at least in our hospital, we're the bottom of the pole of recruiting for HR. So we get the newer recruiters, and then once they start showing that they're doing something, they quickly move up the ranks. And so we're constantly turning over recruiters.
Wow. So that's interesting. In so many ways, facilities, which is the kind of the heart of the hospital, right? But so often down that totem pole, whether it's money or human resources, and I used to find the same thing when I was doing the recruiting, trying to work with HR, and this isn't really a criticism, they just don't know the role, and if you think about it, they really shouldn't, right? It's not a priority for them, right? And so I used to try to find creative ways to work, but it just wasn't always, for whatever reason, it didn't always happen.
Our biggest recruiting tool right now has been utilizing the employment agencies in town, because they're out there and they're dealing with this on a day-to-day basis. They know where to go look for general construction type people or the electricians and the plumbers. And the other added benefit is that we can bring them in with the recruitment agency and set it for a 6-month or 90-day trial. And then at the 90-day, we make the decision if we want to hire them and go through the hiring process. If not, we just end it at that point of time. So it gives us a little bit better idea of being able to try someone out.
Yeah.
And we've had some really good success with that. Not all. Just like anything, you have those guys who work out really good in that 90 days, and then 91 day is a different person. You're like, is this the same person we just hired?
Exactly. Yeah. Isn't it crazy the way that works? Once sometimes people gain that longevity, it's just, you would hope that the work ethic just carries through no matter where you are. But that's a really interesting approach. I had not heard that before, where an organization brings them on for 90 days and then you can cut them loose, or that's a nice way. Are there other kind of innovative strategies that you guys try to use, especially in the competitive market?
So we've been trying to actually reach out to some of the larger groups in the area, for example, the Veterans Administration, and trying to get into their job fairs or have them know what we do, so that as they have military people coming back from the services, going back into civilian life, maybe this is an option for them, especially with the mechanics and all that. And so we've had a couple come through that, and that's been successful. That seems to be hit or miss. It's like while you get some, and then you go a period you don't get any.
Yeah.
And then it keeps kind of going that cycle. The other thing that we've been trying to do is hit the high school and the job fairs at the high school and try to capture some of those kids who maybe don't know what they want to do and let them know about what we have to offer. Why is facilities maintenance so great and what's good about it? And that we've had some good success with. We've done a couple of internships as well with high school students where they come in over the summer. And that's been really getting that recognition out there. So I think that's kind of our avenues is looking at, well, can we go to those trade schools, high schools, those groups of people coming back that are actively looking to get in the job market, but maybe not know where to go and say, hey, let's hit them before the commercial industries hit them and the truck industry gets.
No, so you guys certainly are not passive at all in dealing with this. You're doing quite a bit.
Yeah, we're trying to, because we're just seeing that turnover keep going and keep going. Our biggest hurdle was stealing from each other.
Yeah.
So, you would have one Baycare hospital hiring someone from another Baycare hospital. You kind of had to say, okay, if it's right for the person, great, let's do it. But let's just don't take from ourselves to fill ourselves, because we're just creating the holes. But we also see that with our fellow hospitals. We all want 5 to 10 year experience healthcare people. So where are you going to find them? At someone else's hospitals.
Right.
We trade employees. I always laugh because we always joked about Train and Johnson Controls. Someone, chiller-made mechanic coming from Johnson Controls one day, 3 weeks later, he's now coming to you from Train. No, and it's they jump back and forth, and we're starting to see that in our industry is that workers are going and leaving and going to your competitor or another hospital in the area. And I don't blame them, and I think if it's right for them, it's good. I've always been a proponent of any employees that work for us. If you're bettering yourself or you're bettering your work-life balance, 100% support that, and we'll do everything to help you get to where you need to be. But when we just start seeing the guys jump like $1, $2 here and there, we're not solving the problem. We're just moving it around, shuffling.
Yeah. What do you look for, Mike? What do you look for in an employee these days? And let's assume it's somebody who doesn't have the 5 to 10 years of experience, because you probably either know they can do it or you know somebody who knows it. But assume it's somebody who comes to you they might be green, but there's something that you see. So what do you look for? What are indications?
When I got into this business, it was all about skills. Mm-hmm. You wanted that person with the skills. You have to have the skills to come in. I've changed over the years because I'd taken the philosophy, I can teach someone how to turn a wrench. I can send them to school to become the best HVAC mechanic, but there's certain things I can't teach, and that's the people skills of it. So I want the guy that has good customer service skills, who can talk and feels comfortable talking with customers and setting expectations, but also being fair and being able to communicate well. So to me, I look at that first. If you have someone that can deliver great customer service skills, and I'm not for sure that's a taught talent.
Right.
I think some people have it and some people just don't.
Yeah.
You can teach them everything else, and I don't think you can do it the other way around. Taking that guy who's been an electrician for 30 years and now say, I'm going to teach you how to be relate to the end customer because you've always worked in the construction field where you didn't have to intervene with people. It gets hard to do.
It does. That's an interesting answer on your part. When did that change start to occur in you, where you started to see the soft just as important, if not more so than the technical?
Yeah, I think a lot of that, to me, came about as the whole migration of healthcare. In the old days, call them the old days.
Pre-COVID, maybe?
Pre-COVID.
Yeah.
As a facilities guy, you could get away with saying it's my gut deal. Why do you need that new generator? Well, this one's already 20 years old, and I just feel like it's not going to last. And then we had the big data here, where everything was data-driven. And we saw this C-suite change from not really fully understanding what facilities is doing, but say, no, I don't need to know what facility is doing, but they're being followed the same process clinical follows. And so they're going to have to be able to show us with data how we do things. And they're going to have to be able to sell that service to us. And I think that started to change how we looked at business. But around that same time, we started to see our shop sizes get smaller. So that, I think, played into it a little bit. We started to see a lot of the first wave, I would call it, is the non-traditional shifts, the second and third shifts. You know, when I started back in 1989 in healthcare, we could always find someone to work third shift. There was that boiler tech that just loved the nighttime shift, and he would do it. There was that mechanic whose wife was a nurse in the ED, and she worked third shift, so I wanted to work it. And then we hit that bolus where now no one wants to work third shift.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, what do? You know, you're trying to recruit younger people, and they're just like, I want first shift.
Right.
I'm not going to work up third shift. The older people are aging out and retiring, and you know, and they're not around anymore. So it's just starting to magnify there, and it got to a point where if we hadn't started to looking at other ways into the organization, you wouldn't have anyone.
Yeah.
And so that's where we started to look and say, you know, how do we get the younger generations energized about healthcare? And we're not there. As a organization, as an industry, we have to get out over that thought process of that everyone has to have 5 to 10 years of experience. And I talk to my managers all the time, and they come back and they say, well, I can't hire, I'm looking for electrician 3 and I can't find any in the market. And I'm just like, why not take it out as electrician 1? Do you need electrician 3? Could we bring in electrician 1 and roll it out? And it's just looking at it a little bit differently. And I get it. If I'm in a hospital and I'm running it, I want people there who can do things from day one.
Yeah.
But they're just not there. So
Right.
what do I do?
When I did the recruiting, like I'd have some organizations, and I really respect what you said relative to, okay, we want 5 to 10 years, but if they're not there, what do you do? And you know, like, you can't create them. And I would tell organizations like that, they'd be like, well, I'm looking for somebody who's a mechanical engineer or an electrical engineer or a PE. And I was like, okay, that's great, but I can't create those folks, and they're not, you know, but I always found, and I'm not asking you to talk about daycare, but especially in healthcare, organizations were kind of stuck in the past, and they didn't do as you're talking about here, kind of redefining what we can accept and how we can go about creating that workforce for the future.
Exactly.
If you like this video, please like and subscribe to the network. And more importantly, share it with your colleagues in the healthcare industry. Together, we can solve the aging crisis that's impacting all of us.
What do you see, Mike, as you look to the future? What's your outlook?
You know, we're in some interesting times. I think the industry is trying to figure out how AI impacts us as an organization. We're trying to figure out how the whole, you know, if you asked me 2 years ago, I was going to say, I don't know what we're going to do, because every young person wants to go into the technology field so that they can work from home and live wherever they want to be. And hospitals can't do that. We haven't figured a way to do the boiler maintenance remote.
Right.
It just hasn't happened yet. And, you know, and it was like, what are we going to do? Well, then the tech kind of busted with the AI, and there's thousands of people who have been laid off. We're starting to see some people try to migrate into the tech fields. So it's an interesting time. It's just, how do we attract those people that maybe wanted to work from home and there just aren't those jobs anymore?
Yeah.
And are they willing to try to do something? And as healthcare, are we willing to allow something different? The new generations, they don't want to work the traditional shifts. You know, can we come up with creative shifting to get these guys or females into it? Can we figure out ways to engage their electronics and their technology skills to do kind of an integrated, more higher level approach than just a mechanic? And when you think about it, if we get to the space age, you know, and yeah, maintenance robots. And
Yeah.
you just have people kind of controlling the robots. You're going to need that person that kind of understands the electronic side, but also the maintenance side. Yeah, you can organize that. So I think we have to start as an organization, as an industry, looking at how do we attract the younger generation? How can we change how we do businesses to them a little bit? And how can they fill those roles for us moving forward?
So you talked about creative shifting, which is very interesting to me. We did a podcast with David Emery. David he's a facility manager. Really, he's a facility director. We were talking about titles before. Titles don't mean anything. So he's a facility manager, but he's a director for Inca Mountain Health in Provo, Utah. And we did a podcast talking about ways that he is creatively trying to get his guys into shifts, because like I can't match on money, right? They're going to go other, but what I can do is create a work-life balance for them. And so he's done some creative shifting, 4 days on, 3 days off, get your work done. It's interesting. So if you want to listen to that podcast, go ahead, I'll link to it. But have you found, like, along the creative shifting, Mike, have you guys implemented anything along those lines, or what are you thinking for different ways to do that?
Yeah, so we've dabbled in it. I don't know if we've really gone full bore into it, but we've tried to with certain staff member. One that comes to mind is we had a gentleman that just had a child, and the family was looking at a way to save on daycare. And so he worked first shift, and he wanted to move to a second shift. So his wife would work first shift, he would work the second shift, and they could cover everything in the home. The immediate reaction of the manager was, no, this is this first shift position. I can't be the first shift. And it was just like, well, let's walk through this a little bit. Let's talk it through. Are there PMs we can move to second shift that makes more sense to do when there's less traffic in the hospital that you could have this person do? So we ended it up, and I don't know if we'll stick it full time, but it was like, let's try it.
Yeah.
And see what happens. And before we just say, no, we can't accommodate it, let's give it a try and take it from there. I looked at that when I was probably about 10 years ago, where I was in Wisconsin at a hospital system there. They had made arrangement. They had times struggling to get nurses. So they made a partnership with the hospital down south, and they did a nurse exchange program. So snowbirds, the nurse who wants to live in Wisconsin during the summer but not in the winter, she could work in the summer up in Wisconsin and then transition down to Florida or wherever that southern location is, and then work the winter months down in Florida. And vice versa, they had some families that, they wanted to do the opposite.
Yeah.
They wanted to get away from the heat in the summer. They had kids. They wanted to go someplace where there's more adventure and outdoor lifestyle, and so they would swap. So they would find people and swap them based upon the seasons of the snowbird seasons.
That's really interesting. Have you found other industries that produce people who are good for healthcare?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think historically we've looked at like the aerospace programs and some of the industrial base programs where you had that guy who's maybe an electrician for a factory and coming into the healthcare. But it's hard because, number one, we're not competitive scale laws. Yeah. So, you look at the aerospace, you look at the safety requirements and the processes and the double checks and the safety of passengers. And for us, it's the safety of the patient. They correlate really well.
Yep.
Except for the airline industry makes so much more money that those guys just don't want to. We've recruited a couple that were more on the retirement. They're getting ready for retirement. They want a little change, and they're looking for 1 or 2 years, and they'll come in and do that. I think it's more interesting what I try to look at, and then when we've had some more success, is looking at a candidate and what their hobbies are. And finding the guy who's the garage mechanic who likes to tinker on cars or likes to take electronics and put them back together. They transition very well into the healthcare field because they're curious. They like to run into troubleshooting and doing different type of creative things to get it done. And it just has that mindset of what you need for a mechanic.
Yep.
So we've always looked at, I always ask when I'm interviewing the entry level positions or the tech positions, what do you do in your spare time? And those guys that work on car, I'm stuck on a 69 Chevelle. I've been working on it for 25 years. One of these days I'm going to finish it. That's a guy.
Yeah.
He has that drive to try to get something done.
You sound very heavily involved in all of this process. Are you?
Not as much as I used to be, but I'm involved by mentoring my manager.
Okay.
And working with my managers, and then they're coming to me and say, "Hey, Mike, we've done 18 months and we haven't had single applicant for this position. It's just bouncing ideas off and talking it through as a group and say, hey, have we tried this? Have we tried that? What type of person are you looking for?" It's going to shop needs at the hospitals and trying to get across to the other techs. Hey, when you're out and about, promote our open positions. If you have an HVAC tech coming to your house to work on your furnace and does a great job and he's personable, talk the job and recommend that he comes online for it. I think that's where we're seeing some of our success too, is using our frontline staff to do recruiting. They're out there and they're seeing it, but I've done it. I sat there and had a really good guy come to my house who was working on the heat exchanger for my pool. And I'm like, hey, you really like working out in the hot all day?
Wow, very good.
Thought about this and that.
What did he say?
He turned me down.
He did.
But
Smart.
yeah, you try. It's going to Home Depot. You run into that contractor, Home Depot.
Yeah.
Doesn't hurt to talk it up.
No. Wow. Well, Mike Neely, System Director for Baycare Health, and actually just a tremendous advocate for trying to get people into healthcare facilities management. I appreciate your time this afternoon. Thank you for speaking.
Well, thank you.
And Mike, now, like you said, you're trying to mentor your managers or tell your managers, just pop on this video and say, here, watch this and do that. Exactly. Perfect. Mike Neely, thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you want to be a guest on a future episode of the Healthcare Facilities Network, go to healthcarefacilitiesnetwork.com and let us know who you are and what you want to talk about, because together we can solve this critical aging issue.